Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I wasn't even sure if I was going to film a video on this channel today because I got up early today and ran some errands with my husband, and then my husband went out to lunch with some girlfriends. He's been hanging out with them most of the afternoon. And then I wanted to go to the pool with my neighbors because the pool is getting ready to close on Monday. And the summer is coming to a close. And there's a lot of discussion in the neighborhood about keeping the pool open or closing the pool and things like that. And I'm going to talk more about that on my vlog. But I'm also going to talk about what I'm going to talk about on here today on my vlog as well. Probably more at length on my vlog. But I went to the pool and I was sitting there with some of my neighbors, and I was just like very silent, sitting on the steps, drinking my coffee. I just got back probably 15-20 minutes ago. My hair is still a little bit wet. I thought I would go hatless in this video today. But I was sitting on the steps and I just started having this feeling that, like, I can't believe that summer's almost over, you know? And in all honesty, the warmer, nice weather will probably last through October, so I've probably got 2 good months to still sit out here on the front porch. As many of you know, I sit out here with a warm coat on and a hoodie and wear my Ugg boots out here. And so I still sit out here, you know, throughout the winter and things like that. I now have my heated vest, and I'm thinking about buying from the same brand because I love that brand so much. I'm thinking about buying a heated hoodie or coat that I can wear every single day out here because I really love that so much. I also need to buy another battery so that I can replace the battery so I can sit out here longer, because the battery lasts about 3 or 4 hours. Sometimes I sit out here for longer than that, and so I try to time it just right for when it gets cold. So I think that might be something that I do, is buy another battery for that vest. But I was sitting in the pool, and today it is about 82, 83, so it's warm enough to go to the pool, and sitting out of the pool feels very, very nice, you know, just in a swimsuit, in the sun and things like that. But the pool is very cold. The last couple days, it was funny because this dad that comes up there a lot and brings his daughter, I said to him, like, they kept on jumping in the pool, and I said, is it cold? This was before I got in, and he said, it's not really that cold by about the 4th jump. So I was kind of like waist deep, you know, sitting there and in the shallow end, and they kept on jumping in the deep end. And so he said to his daughter, he said, are you ready? And he goes, 1, 2, 3. And then he jumped, and then she jumped, and then I went under. I was like, okay, I've got to get like fully, you know, immersed in the water. So I did. And I sat on the steps. It was like the sun was, I got up there so late that the sun started to fade a little bit. And so I'm like, you know, inching closer and closer to the wall of the pool so I can hold on to the sun. And I'm drinking my coffee and enjoying these last days of summer. But I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, you know, I had all these plans this summer that I was going to get up early and get a lot of stuff done early on, and then spend the better part of the afternoon at the pool. And the reality is that there were only a few really nice days this summer, you know, when I was here, that there were really nice warm days to go to the pool, that I didn't have appointments. So, you know, there was a reason that I could just be around here and go up to the pool with my neighbors and things like that. And there were many days that were cool this summer, and or it was rainy or it was cloudy, and they weren't necessarily nice days, you know. Then there were other days that I would sit here and I would think to myself, okay, I'm just going to get this done, I'm just going to film that video, I'm just going to do these dishes, I'm going to do that, and whatever, you know. And then before I knew it, it was like 4:30 in the afternoon, and I'd say, oh, just forget it, when my whole plan had been to get to the pool, you know? And I'd say, oh, just forget it, I'm not going to go to the pool now, I'll just sit on the front porch, it's nice out there, you know, whatever. So I'm sitting on the steps of the pool today, and I'm thinking to myself, I didn't even go to the pool nearly as much this year as I did last year, or the year before that, you know? I still feel like I went quite a bit this summer. I definitely feel like I got my money's worth out of the pool, you know, for our HOA fees. But this kind of sadness kind of came over me. I don't know. It was weird. It was like, I've always, my whole life, had a problem with endings. And I've always had a lot of attachments. Like when I was a little kid, I had attachments to books and to hotel rooms. My dad would always, he started this thing with me when I was very young, that if we stayed in a hotel room for a couple days or a week or whatever, or on his sailboat, and then we would leave at the end of the year, you know, we'd always say, goodbye sailboat, you've been a good sailboat to us this summer, or goodbye hotel room, thank you for being our home this week. My dad would always say that. And I think, you know, something that my dad wasn't aware of at that time was that I was somebody that was developing deep attachments to inanimate objects, that I was always kind of trying to find some kind of sense of home, you know, somewhere. And maybe that was because I lived in a lot of chaos growing up, you know, I don't know, that going back and forth from house to house, and my mother's drinking and things like that, and there just was, you know, at the time that my parents got divorced, there weren't a lot of parents that were divorced. And so, for me, even though I think my parents approached it in a really healthy manner and co-parented very well together, I think that I was clinging on to anything, whether it was stuffed animals or hotel rooms or the sailboat or my room or my home, whatever, you know, it was, or books or even movies or TV shows. Like I clung onto them, you know, almost like the families and the TV shows became my families and things like that. I've always been like that. And I've always had a hard time with endings. Even endings of things that you would think that I would be happy about. I remember the last day of my 5th grade year. I did not like elementary school. I didn't really have very many friends. I had, you know, maybe 2 or 3 girlfriends, and even I wasn't very close to. I was pretty much on my own, you know, and summer was always kind of this respite for me, because I did have friends in the neighborhood, and people were very nice to me, and I've shared this in other videos, and I think behind the scenes, because I think a lot of the parents probably assumed that I might be gay because I was effeminate acting. You know, and I think also because every family on our street, and we were a very family-oriented street, I think every one of the families really cared about my mom, and a lot of them worked with my dad, and we were one of the first divorced families, you know, in the city that I grew up in. So I think that parents behind the scenes were saying to their kids, you know, you need to include Peter. You need to make him feel part of it. Don't make fun of him and things like that. Because I never felt made fun of on the street. There's only like one incident, and it was when we all got caught. Like, there was like 10 of us that got caught of varying ages. And I was like one of the younger kids. But I had stolen some beer and cigarettes from my mom. And because they had encouraged me to. And we had all got caught smoking cigarettes and drinking. I think at the time I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and all the kids sold me and one other person up the river, basically, and said it was our fault. And I can remember my parents, I can remember sitting on the steps in my house, and my dad coming over, because my mom didn't want to deal with this on her own, because a lot of the parents were like, it was Peter, whatever, right? And I think probably in retrospect, my mom had a lot of guilt, because it was her beer and it was her cigarettes that was stolen. And so I can remember my dad coming over, and I was sitting on the stairs and I was sobbing, and my dad said, referring to this one kid, he said, I know he's lying, and because he's lying and telling his parents what they want to hear, he'll be rewarded, you know, new hockey goals and hockey sticks. All the kids in our neighborhood played hockey. He said, unfortunately, because you're being honest with us and telling us that you were the one that brought the beer, you were the one that was smoking, everybody was involved in it, whatever, you're telling us the truth. Unfortunately, we have to punish you. We have to hold you accountable for this, right? This is a very valuable lesson that I learned at a really young age. I didn't even think I was going to talk about this today. This was not even anywhere on my radar today when I started sitting down here ready to film this. But I can remember, you know, my dad saying, but in the long run, it will pay off. I don't know that that's true necessarily, because he'll continue to lie and manipulate his way through life, and you'll learn to, you know, be honest about things. Well, I ended up being an addict and an alcoholic that lied a lot before I got sober, and he ended up becoming a surgeon, very highly reputable surgeon. So I don't know that there's a lot of truth to that, but I think that my dad's sentiment, I think the lesson he was trying to teach was rather wise, you know. I remember also that at that time I was like very fascinated at a young age with my mom smoking cigarettes. I always felt like my mom was a glamorous smoker, like a movie star kind of thing. And there was another time, I think, that I got caught smoking cigarettes. It was like that I stole a cigarette from my mom or something like that. I remember my aunt and uncle used to smoke Carlton 100s, which were like the weakest cigarettes in the entire world. And they were like low tar, low nicotine. But it had this beautiful red pack. If anybody else out there ever smoked as a kid or a teenager, like sometimes you're attracted to like the pack. I remember my mom's friend when I was in high school, her friend smoked Benson Hedges Ultralight 100s. It was this gold pack that was very ornate, and I used to love that, you know. But my aunt and uncle smoked Carlton 100s. They quit smoking years and years before they both passed, but I remember my uncle one time, I said he had quit smoking for like 10 or 15 years, and he quit probably about 50 or something like that. And I said, Uncle Dave, I said, do you ever miss smoking cigarettes? He goes, every single day I miss it. I go, do you really? He was like, yeah, every single day. But there was another time that I got caught smoking cigarettes. I would have been still around 8 or 9. It may have been off this incident. I don't know. But my dad thought he was going to do like the old school parenting, and I remember he got like drum tobacco and like rolling papers, and he rolled cigarettes, and we sat on the front steps of his this must have looked so bizarre to people, you know, and we sat on the front steps of his apartment complex, and he lit this cigarette, and I was like, you're gonna let me smoke? And he was like, yeah. He's like, if you're gonna smoke, like let's not hide it, let's be smokers, you know. And my dad he hated smoking. He always hated it his entire life. And so I remember sitting out there smoking this cigarette, and I thought, this is so cool. I get to smoke with my dad now. Well, it completely backfired on my dad. You know, my dad, he thought that he was going to teach me this lesson. I was going to cough up a lung, which I probably did, but coughing up a lung at that age was worth it to look that glamorous. I can remember probably, you know, I know what it was now. It was that these pictures were taken that me and this other kid, the surgeon, you know, because we were both close in age, he and we didn't play together after a certain age. Then I became friends with the two girls that lived in a cul-de-sac with me. But he and I, this one time, we got dressed up in all of these play clothes, and I remember it was like all of these like old lady clothes that my mom had, and I had this like pink like linen wraparound skirt and this like long blouse, and I had on this huge straw hat. I'm literally probably, would have been before all this. I probably at this point was about 6 or 7, and I had this huge straw hat on, and I'm leaning up against this beech tree like this. I mean, who comes up with this at 6 or 7, right? I'm leaning up against this beech tree like this, and I'm smoking this twig that's like this long from this tree, right? And I'm just like, and my mom took pictures of it. She thought it was so funny. And here was this kid that later becomes a surgeon, right? And he's standing next to me in this like sack dress, right? Just looking, and he's got this like sad, like, you know, bucket hat on, looking like the most sad old lady in the entire world. And there we are, glamorous Peter. It's like Grey Gardens, you know, out there in the front yard. My mom thought it was hilarious, so she took these pictures. Well, his dad did not care for it. His dad, who worked with my dad, was furious that his son was dressing up like a girl, and that my parents let me do whatever I wanted to do. They didn't care. I mean, they didn't want me smoking cigarettes, and stuff like that. But he was furious about that, and that we were faking that we were smoking cigarettes. So my dad's answer to that, I mean, he could care less if I was dressing up like a girl. My dad's answer to that was, well, let's let Peter smoke, and then we'll see that he doesn't want to smoke anymore. That didn't happen. That didn't work. But anyway, I don't know why I'm getting to all this. I'm just thinking down memory road today, you know, or memory lane, and I was sitting there and I was thinking about, like, all these endings, you know, that I've had in my life, all these people I've said goodbye to, summer after summer that I've said goodbye to, and as you get older, it means a little bit more to you. I remember, it was probably 2 or 3 years ago, no, it would have been last year, I can remember thinking to myself, because my mom died when she was 64, and I turned 50 last year, and I thought, if I live to be my mom's age, I only have 14 summers left. And I don't know why. I don't know why, like, that even goes through my head. That I think that way. I mean, we all only have a limited amount of time on this earth, right? Like, we know that. But I just guess I don't want it to end. Any of it. You know, not just summer, but any of it. I know there's so much sadness and so much horrible crap that happens in the world, but I rather like life, you know? I rather like listening to my audiobooks and drinking coffee and sitting at the pool with my neighbors and gossiping about the HOA and getting fountain cokes with Tanya and going to meetings and watching TV shows. I rather like all of that, you know? I'm not ready for it to be over yet. And, I'm not ready for Boo Radley to be gone. I think about that a lot. That we're on borrowed time with him as it is, you know. So I was sitting there in the pool today and I was thinking, it feels like it was just yesterday that I was like counting down the days until the pool opened, until summer started and, you know, school was out. That I could be sitting on my front porch enjoying the warm weather, you know, and now it's all closing down. The cool weather's coming and the pool's closing and summer's almost officially over. Another summer gone, you know? I didn't really mean to be so sad today. I guess I'm just all up in my feelings. And then I was thinking about, like, there's all these things I always say I want to do every summer, you know? Like, I always want to go outside and have a picnic, and which I could still do. I always want to go to the art museum and see these movies that I used to see as a kid. You know, like, they have these movies on this big screen, and Alex and I say every year that we're going to do that. We didn't do that. And the reality is, I had a fantastic summer. I went to the pool quite a bit. I went to Arizona and visited my friends. Alex and I went to Mexico for my birthday. You know, saw friends, went to a lot of meetings, got to sit on my front porch a lot and really enjoy this front porch. Didn't really enjoy the back porch so much, but that's okay. Didn't even sit out there once, I don't think. But that's okay. You know, the front porch was been fantastic, and took a lot of naps with Boo Radley, and took him outside a lot to run around. It's been a great summer, you know. It's been a really great summer. I just guess maybe I'm not ready for it to be over. But you know, the truth is, I'm not ever ready for anything to be over. I think grief in a lot of ways is a really selfish emotion. You know, when I think about friends of mine that have passed, or my mom. I mean, my mom was so sick, my aunt was so sick, my uncle was so sick. For me to want them to still be here, I would want them to still be here sick and suffering. I wouldn't want that for them. I think grief sometimes is selfish because we can't let go, you know? I think that's why it's so hard when I hear people say, well, they're in a better place now. I don't want them in a better place. I want them with me. I want my dogs with me. I want my family with me. And as you get older and you lose more and more, you cling to those summers because summers or movies or TV shows or whatever, it's sometimes all you got to hold on to, you know? You don't have that many people left in your life, and you know, I've said this before in vlogs, it's like there's not that many people that really know my history anymore, you know? I met Tanya after I got sober. My dad and my stepmom don't really like to talk a lot about the past. And Caroline and I, as close as we are today, we were always in each other's lives, but we weren't like that enmeshed in each other's lives to where, like, if I say a story to her, sometimes she has no idea what I'm talking about, you know? Because she doesn't know those people, she doesn't know those players, because my mom and dad had their own separate friends outside of my aunt and uncle. So there's shared memories of our youth, but not everything. And it's like my mom's gone, my aunt's gone, my uncle's gone. Most of my mom and my dad's friends are gone at this point. There's not many people left that know my history, but I do. And I want to create new memories, you know? I want to enjoy new memories, which is why I'm going to allow myself to cry it out. I'm going to allow myself to enjoy the last couple days of summer at the pool. I have a hard time. I know people will say, well, summer doesn't actually end until September 21st. Well, summer doesn't actually end until I can't go inside or can't go outside anymore because it's too cold. That's kind of how I look at it. But really for me, the unofficial end of summer is when the pool closes. So I will enjoy the last couple days of summer at the pool. And then I will do my best to go steadfast into fall and Halloween and enjoy that as much as I can. Because I want to enjoy my life, you know? I want to look forward, not back all the time. And I have a tendency, as many of you know, to look back a lot. And that's okay. But I want to have new memories too. You know, I don't want to be so sad about summer ending that I completely miss out on fall. You know, fall is beautiful too, and there's a lot of great, I love the food of fall. I love chili and corn muffins and apple muffins and pumpkin bread and, you know, Halloween, and I love all of it. Scary movies, you know, I love fall. And I love winter too. You know, I was talking to a friend earlier today. I called at the pool, and this friend of mine doesn't live in Indiana, and said something to the effect of like, oh yeah, it gets cold there and you guys have snow and the pool closes. And I was like, yeah. And I said, you know, what's interesting is, I said, I'm like ready for Halloween and fall, and I'm also ready for winter and Christmas, but I'm not ready for summer to be over. Which is a complete, like, oxymoron. It doesn't make any sense, right? I think that's part of my brain accepting endings that I've tried to get better with throughout life, while also enjoying what's to come. Life is not a dress rehearsal. To better enjoy it while you're here as much as you possibly can, right? I was going to read a meditation today, but I think this has gone long enough, and I've probably made most of you out there so sad and weepy. I'll try to do a more inspiring and motivating video for tomorrow, but these are just my thoughts today. Anyway, I love you guys so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.